Hi, welcome to D10tion, where we pretend to know what we're talking about when it comes to D&D. I am Tristan, the Teeth Taker.
Oh, God.
To my left, we have Sam, the Small Smasher. And to my right, we have Brandon, the Bitter Breaker.
Tastes bitter.
I smash small.
So all these names that I'm joking around with is because today we're going to continue our delve into the different races of D&D. And this time we're going to talk about orcs.
You know, they're, the classic bad guy.
Yes.
You can be one.
Like,
they're misunderstood.
Orcs are one of those things where, like, when you hear things like orcs, ogres, all those kind of
Goblins, kobolds.
Yeah, they're up there in those ranks, as well as when you see things like in fantasy, they tend to be orcs.
Yep.
Because most people when they think of the whole armies in like the Lord of the Rings series and whatnot. They're pretty similar to those.
Yeah, that's pretty much an orc in D&D.
Yeah. So orcs are very specific. They're definitely something that you see very often. They're a little bit more newer as far as being a race that you can actually play. As we talked about before, we've talked about half orcs, which are a bit more, they've been around a little bit more as far as playability.
They're the nicer ones.
They're the nicer ones. So yeah, orcs, they're almost like a barbarian race most of the time.
They're similar to, what you'd imagine a barbarian tribe. War in the tribe comes first. Strength overall. The brutal nature. Short lifespans. Poor hygiene.
Tend to be more savage and fearless, and they tend to actively go after like other tribes and other races.
Right, and because of these features, as we talk about these races, we don't delve too much into their history. Orcs are another one of those races, even though maybe not as extensive as like elves or dwarves. Orcs have a big history in D&D as a staple of the bad guys.
They have their own deities.
Yes, they talk about gods. They have their gods they think are invincible. Again, very much more war-based and strength and whatnot.
So that's how you pronounce it. Their biggest god, you're going to hear the most if you talk about any sort of pantheon or deity, it's going to be Groomsh. The one, Groomsh, the like one eye. That's their whole thing is if you have to pay their gods are invincible, it's Groomsh. Groomsh is invincible. He pretty much created the orcs. So that's why they believe that.
Right. This is where their god has pushed them to be so battle ready that if orcs are too weak for battle, they're banished or they're exiled or they're
murdered
or or they're daily or at least daily humiliated. And this is anything from they're just weak framed or they have a
disease or some sort
or
of
an injury
problem,
or they're just old. You could be there's no there's Grandpa Orc over there. He's sitting in his rocking chair and just telling us stories. No, then
Grandpa Orc needs to get on the front lines and die like a man.
Exactly. And that's that mentality of the orcs, which is why some players don't like playing them.
They are you're very niche. You either have to lean heavy into being an orc or you have to be an orc that is fighting against. There's no I take some, I leave some. Orcs are the definition of polar in one direction or another. You either have to be the astute wizard that's going to be yes, I'm here for my brain, or I'm going to smash everything, because that's how orcs see themselves. Either you're part of the tribe or you're a total outcast.
Right. So we'll briefly speak more about their kind of life in the tribe. They tend to reproduce pretty quickly.
Because Grandpa is actually only 40 years old instead of 70. So,
yeah. Because they're considered, a juvenile by the age of 4.
Yep, and they're fully grown by the age of 12. Meaning, when you get your 12th birthday, you're not even a teenager yet. Here's your sword, here's your shield, go get them.
Right. Their whole life is wrapped around being warriors. That's their whole point. They're pretty much their mantra is search, destroy, repeat. They are that definition. If you were to talk about the stereotype of a barbarian, any character that plays a barbarian, just that stereotype, that's what an orc is.
Orcs are barbarians.
That tends to be all they are. Because you're talking about they focus on things like war wagons, where they just
Hey, I'm in my wagon going to war.
they're all fighters or barbarians most of the time. everyone has a job. Like that's one of those upsets of at least there's equality because everyone. There's no exceptions.
Yeah, Sammy, go get him. It's your turn. There's no exceptions. Go get him.
Go fight him.
I got it.
I believe in you. We'll be back here.
I mean, as we continue to talk, we'll talk about alignment eventually, and whatnot. But these are their enemies are just everyone.
They're enemies, even themselves.
Yes.
Literally, as a chieftain, if you're leading a war wagon, if you're leading you're leading this wagon and you break it or it gets lost or anything happens, your authority as chieftain can be undermined and everyone's gonna be like, "You're dead now. I'm taking control. I'm challenging you for control of it."
That being said, like I don't think of orcs as like mindless, like bloodlust monsters.
No, they have a structure.
They tend to focus more on like, oh, I want to take this tribe and steal their money, and like I might like leave their defenseless children and women. Like, but if they're a threat, I'm gonna take you down. But if not,
right.
But then all of that changes when they go up against certain races, like elves, like. Orcs and elves,
kill them all.
Like eliminate them. Where something like dwarves, they might sort of like, fight their way into a dwarf hold and then just completely and totally just take all of their stuff because dwarves are like the artisans, so they really sort of covet that.
It's pretty. I want it.
That dwarf.
But they would be just as happy to just let the dwarves run if that's what they want to do.
They're not trying to kill the dwarves. They just want the dwarf stuff. So. You're lucky if you're a dwarf and they're like, oh, you're too small. But if you're an elf, sorry.
Yeah.
You're out of luck.
You literally are going to die.
And, I mean, again, we bring up the fact that strength respects strength. If you're strong, if you run into an orc, if you're an orc and you find an orc that's stronger than you, you automatically respect them. They are now your authority because they are stronger.
Go get me a drink. Okay, fine.
You're stronger. And this is where, like, they're led by the strong. If it's very much almost animalistic of like if two alphas, whether they're male or female, are like, we want control. It's like, well, then you better beat me. And you're like, well, I guess I've been king for the last 10 years, but you're stronger than me, so you can have the tribe now. Goodbye.
And typically tribes tend to stay like around a couple hundred members. Anything larger just isn't sustainable. But on rare occasions, those tribes will sort of band together, and you get this large orc horde that just sort of marches across the land, like, just sort of dominates. And that orc horde is kind of what you think of when you think of like Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
Big battle scene.
Yeah, that is definitely several tribes coming together and just laying siege to everything.
And orcs, with working with the strong doesn't have to be an orc. The strong can be a green dragon. It can be a giant. It can be literally anything that poses the greatest strength and a willingness to lead the tribe is gonna take the title.
Right, and that's a good point because with it being strength respects strength. I mean, yeah, you could run like an orc could run into a Goliath, or like you said, like maybe it's a dragonborn, or even just something sentient that's stronger.
Boom, there's the new leader.
Yeah, it's like we are orcs led by a minotaur. What?
We didn't stutter. His name's Greg.
He's a good guy.
For all of the orcs' strength and their sort of like domination, they're incredibly superstitious.
Oh,
and
yeah.
they find omens and signs from their gods and even like the most trivial of things. Like,
I spilled some soup today. I'm gonna die.
Yeah, I mean, like if they see 3 ravens, oh, it's gonna be a good day or it's gonna be a good fight, and or like they believe that gnome bones can ward off diseases.
Right.
Good old gnome bones.
I mean, you'll have
Go pick up some gnome bones.
They have like habits, like it's good luck to spit where you're about to sleep. I mean, if you bury 5 stones at dawn before a long journey, you will always find your way back to the war heart. I mean, they're like Sam said, they're just superstitious as hell.
Literally anything they do, there's probably something that the orc tribe has been passed down to do or has made up to do.
Right. I mean, and of course, you see this all the time with different races. Like, we'll talk about them at some point, but like bugbears, like they believe, like if they see a head that talks, it's like the weird, like it's like the most like religious experience for them.
Oh my God, Groom, she's talking to me.
Yeah. So I mean, they're just superstitious as hell. And it's so funny because that happens, like, because that's where you as a player, if you're interacting with an orc, you can use that to your advantage. Like, oh look, there's 3 ravens. Like,
That's good.
Yeah.
You're also very, symbol conscious and symbolic in what they do. They use crude symbols to convey things in their own little tribe or own horde, like a symbol, food stored here. It's just, instead of saying, like, storage, it's just a symbol.
Right. This is where it's a lot like what is it? Like the hobo markings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the Orc written language is not very thorough. It's not very literate. It's just like simple, basic things.
Right. And along with those things, you have stuff like colors. The three colors have special meanings to all orcs, and they adorn them on their bodies, their possessions, their lairs. Red is used to represent blood.
Wow, how get creative?
Blood is red.
A gray, white, or an ash color tends to represent death, and charcoal tends to be represented with darkness.
Wow. Man, these orcs sure are creative.
Right, and this is where, of course, this goes along with like the unwritten laws, and of course that changes from tribe to tribe. But you're definitely going to run into ones where it's like, these are things that you should probably remember if you're going to be playing.
I never do.
For instance, like the chief of one tribe might be the only one that has the right to stain his tusks with red, or another one might rub stakes of ash into their garments to just represent other things. So, and of course, as we continue to talk about like actually playing an orc, because they're so dramatically different than playing a normal, character from the player handbook, it tends to...
They get their own traits and ideals. Not from your background, from just being an orc.
Right, and they can vary into a couple things. We'll just name a few things.
We can just roll some real quick.
That's a good point.
Here's your
go ahead, roll a d6, your personality trait.
When?
I never relinquish my weapon.
Never!
Give me another d6, we'll do an ideal. 4. Intimidation. If I can get what I want from weaklings that fear me. D6, bond.
1.
I will defend my tribe to the death.
With your weapon you never give up?
And a flaw.
4.
I understand the value of civilization and the order that society brings.
I think that dice is weighted.
You're right. 1, 4.
Now, and again, these are just like guidelines, but this is where you're going to be playing orc. You might want to look into them if you're trying to play like a straight up orc, maybe not necessarily someone
like a
from...
traditional orc.
Right.
Okay, I want to roll 2 d12s for this.
Oh, and then your orc names.
Yeah, orc names, they don't always have meaning in the orc language, and most noteworthy orcs are given like nicknames.
Epitaphs, so like we said earlier,
tooth taker,
small smasher.
So we got name 6.
So for male or female,
doesn't matter.
Rook,
and then epithet 8.
Flesh ripper.
So Rook, flesh ripper.
See, that easy.
It's fun.
I mean, clearly, when it comes to a lot of orc names, their actual name tends to be, when you think of like an orc name, it's exactly what you think it is. Just a name.
It's like gluttural, short, like just...
It's just how they talk to each other, because Guru, look behind you, is a lot easier than Eldrin of the winter sky, look yonder.
It's like Grog. Like, yeah, you don't see Grog. I see you, buddy. You're right there. No.
Right.
So yeah, their names can be. This is definitely where if you're giving a name, like a shorter name, whether it's male or female, and then having a nickname tends to work pretty well. So let's start talking about some of the other traits.
The nitty gritty, mechanical business of the D&D.
Right. Now, Sam, you're about to go into this, but we're going to run into something that we haven't talked about before.
Not
when it comes
yet.
to the traits. So go ahead and kick us off when it comes to that.
So, for your ability scores, you get a strength increase by 2, a con increase by 1, but your intelligence is reduced by 2. This is kind of important because this is, the first time that we're talking about having a negative modifier, a negative effect on your ability score. Which, I mean, if you're supposed to be playing like a big, brutish, strong, like, warrior, you're not really going to be thinking all that much. You're going to be smashing.
Right. This is like we've mentioned, where it was the stereotypical barbarian stats.
Right.
This is where you're going to have a negative. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts.
Let me just put that 18 I have into intelligence.
And you're still going to be you're going to be average.
You're going to be at 16.
Right.
Darn it.
Right. You might as well pop that 10 that you rolled into intelligence and just take that 8.
Yes.
You should never be the party's think tank.
Right. And this is where like orcs are very different from other races. It's definitely a very new like player race that you can do.
It's one of the newer ones, yeah. It's been out for a little while, but it's still new based
It's
on
new in the grand scheme of D&D.
Yes.
But yeah, that negative modifier is something that if you're looking to play an orc, you really all watch out for, or you can just play a half orc.
Or you can just play up that dumbness.
Duh.
Yeah.
Button. No.
I want to push red button.
No.
Now we've talked about their age slightly, where it's they're juveniles at 4, they're adults at 12, and they live up to 50.
So yeah, you don't live that long.
Grandpa is 40.
You got, and when you hit 25, you've hit the pinnacle. You've hit the tops.
I mean, but when you're living in like a tribe and all you're doing is like raiding and like killing people,
Yeah,
and
your life
you're
expectancy.
probably
They're
gonna
gonna
lower
be-
life expectancy.
Your alignment is you're a vicious raider. So generally, you are going to be just down, chaotic, evil. You just want strength. You just want power. You want everything that everyone else has. You're most often an orc by design is chaotic evil. So if you're doing an evil campaign, perfect. If you're doing a good campaign, oof.
Yeah. Chaotic tends to be what you're going to lead on either way. Like, even if you're playing a orc in a good party, you're probably going to be chaotic good.
You're fighting against the
chaotic
evil.
neutral.
Yeah.
Or you can play up that orc tradition, stick with more of a lawful side of things, and be like, whoever's the strongest is the leader.
If they're evil, I'm evil. If they're good, I'm good.
Right,
Exactly.
very much so. As far as size of orcs are big. They are usually over 6 feet tall and weigh about 230 to 280 pounds, but you're still considered medium.
You're just husky.
Yeah, you're a big dude. I mean, you're still talking about, like, if they're at minimum 6 feet, you're talking about, like, you know.
You're taller than most of the population on the earth right now.
Yes.
Yeah. But your base walking speed is only 30.
Boom, boom,
Because you're
boom,
still
boom, boom.
medium.
Still medium. But you do get that dark vision, so you can see in dim light 60 feet as if it were bright light, which is good. And you also get aggressive, which means as a bonus action, you can move up to your speed toward an enemy of your choice that you can see or hear. Which is kind of nice because it sort of, gives you that extra bolster of being able to rush up on an enemy.
And you have to be, just like this happened back there. But the only thing is you have to end your turn closer to the enemy. You can't just do, I'm totally going to go close to him and then somehow end up an equidistant. You at least have to, by the game definitions, 5 feet closer. So even if you use your movement to go, around and 5 feet, you can do that. You're technically closer.
Right. I mean, along with being aggressive, you get to be menacing, which means you get to, you're trained in the intimidation skill.
As your just existence is intimidating.
Yes. As well as you have a powerful build. You count as one size larger when determining your carrying capacity and the weight that you can push, drag, or lift.
So
Now-
even though you're a medium creature, you count as large for carrying capacity.
Which is great. Because it's so useful.
All of a
Yes.
sudden, you hold all of the party's equipment.
Or you.
We
or
need
there's
someone
that-
to hold the gold chest.
Well, that's why, like, there's that there's a comic out there where it's like we've got all 10,000 gold, and then the orc comes over like, what do you mean we? How much gold can you carry? And they're like, oh, and he's like,
Right. But as far as languages, you get Common and Orc.
Because that's it.
You
That's
you don't have time to learn Elf or
Anything else? Who cares?
Infernal. You're too busy smashing things.
Who cares about that?
Well,
Right?
and again, this is one of those
Boring.
things where their intelligence definitely plays a huge role, because when we've talked about half orcs, they know Dwarven.
Yeah.
Because they actually take the time to
Well,
understand
the
this.
They know
the
Dwarven.
Orc written language is based off of the Dwarvish script.
they could
it's
learn
just a
easier.
rudimentary
Right.
version.
They
But-
could learn it easier by having the -2 to intelligence because, whoo boy!
Yeah.
Our orcs are fighting for supremacy.
So that's pretty much an overall of orcs. They are very much exactly what you'd think they'd be as far as playing one. Like, it's one of those things where if you were playing D&D and they hadn't added orcs to it yet, and you're like, I want to play an orc. This is exactly how you
This is
would
how most
think
people
it's
would
going
make
to
it.
play.
Yeah.
Yeah, like even if you thought you were homebrewing it, this is what they're going to do.
Now, in our campaign, we do know quite a nice orc.
Yes.
He is very different than the usual, which is, no one's questioned it, which is
Not yet.
nice.
He is the postman.
He's the postman. He's big. I made him a big old orc.
Yes.
He's a big boy. He's just he's like I said, you're either into the I'm going to smash everything or you're on the opposite side.
Right.
He still smashes, but he doesn't do it willy-nilly for funsies.
Right.
Which is a shame. If you're playing an orc, you should totally smash for funsies.
All right, you fight the
Or-
postman.
Or
I said if you're playing an orc.
I am.
Not that I want to fight an orc.
or you can go with his cousin, Edward Farabluff. He's an artificer. He is not a big fighter.
That's true.
They are orcs that are in a generation and in an area where orcs don't have to be.
Whereas in my campaign, orcs in my campaign.
I need club. Boom.
Okay, here you go.
So yeah, orcs. I mean, you don't like Brand has just said that you can go to either side of the spectrum. You can try to float somewhere in the middle, but orcs tend to make you have to go either one side or the other. It's hard to have a middle ground when it comes to orcs.
Yep.
But this is why you'll see orcs tend to only be played in a lot of evil campaigns, or you have to be the really other side of the spectrum
You're going to be
make
the
any kind of sense.
Or you're going to be the chaotic neutral following whoever is somehow stronger than you in the party.
Yeah.
Or you're the party lead and you get to pick whatever you want your tribe to do. I want that. No, I'm stronger.
I mean, you better hope the rest of that party understands that rule.
Well, that'll be up to the player.
The bard's like, I don't want to do this. And he's just like, roar. You're like, okay, you're right there, Todd. I'm going to go ahead and do this. My name's not Todd. It's Torov. Todd.
So that pretty much sums up.
Yeah, orcs are not
They're not
complicated.
yeah.
The most complication you're going to find when you're looking into orcs is their history, their traditions, their personalities. I would say
tribe.
The most difficult thing you're going to find if you want to play it accurately is going to be the role-playing aspect. And that's even before you start talking about your background or your certain class features and, subclasses and stuff like that. However, if you're looking for the most mindless, brutish
Siege
character...
weapon.
Yeah. I mean, that's why it works great for something as a DM. If you're looking for DM, as a DM for villains to fight, as far as here's a mindless horde of something to fight, or if you're looking for, even if it's a main villain to fight and the leader is king of an orc clan.
He's going to be big buff and very scary.
Right. And that's where you just tell everyone, just wait a couple of years, he'll probably die.
Hopefully, we don't know. He's been around for a while. I think I said amulet. Amulet?
Amulet of long life? Oh no!
Oh, crap!
That's the never dying door. So yeah, orcs are not all that complicated as far as what you get out of them. But again, everything comes down to is how you decide to play them or how to use them. So that will be it for orcs, and until we see you guys next time, D10tion dismissed.